Welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology forecast for April 14th through the 20th. And this week's theme is healing through encounters with the shadow. So this means experiencing healing, a sense of integration, a sense of wholeness, a sense of inner um, inner satisfaction via becoming more aware of things which maybe have been unconscious in some way. Sort of, we can think of encountering the shadow as collecting back parts of ourselves that, for a variety of different reasons, that we have exiled in some way. So we're reclaiming parts of self. And this week, the astrology involves moving into Taurus season. So, happy birthday to the remaining folks that have birthdays in Aries season and our Taurus people. Happy birthday to you. We also have a T square between the Sun, Mars, and Pluto. So, we're going to dissect that and talk about what that symbolizes, what that means, especially from this depth psychological perspective, looking at the experiences that are underneath what may be readily apparent, things that are sort of working with our experience of the unconscious. My name is Shauna McGrath. I'm a depth psychotherapist, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and an astrologer. And I'm so pleased and honored to share the astrology of this week with you from this depth psychological perspective. So, we're going to start with Mercury. We're going to start at the beginning of the week where Mercury moves forward into the sign of Aries. And so, this is doubly important because last week Mercury stationed direct. So, it's slowly moving forward from our perspective, of course, after it has appeared to move backwards, after it has appeared to retrograde, symbolizing this more contemplative experience over the last 3 weeks, over the last month or so. So, this happens on Tuesday, the 15th of April. Mercury moves from Pisces into Aries. And so, Mercury is a symbol of our logical, analytical thought process, our ability to communicate, to transmit, to share something that we have stirring inside of us with the outside world. And also, so Mercury is very connected to this bridging, this sharing, taking something from one thing to another. And we can also think of Mercury as an interior process as well, our ability to connect the dots, to create meaning, to connect and to sort of have a sense of inner integration, so to speak, as well. And so when Mercury moves fairly quickly through the zodiac. It really stays in a sign for about a month at a time, but we had a longer visit with Mercury in Aries and Pisces. And so, what I also want to say too about this is it's this our ability to communicate, to share, and then also to intellectually, logically integrate things on our mind. Mercury really is a symbol of the mind. There's this movement from this Pisces quality, which is mutable water. It's very shapeshifty. It's very much about experiences and holding paradox and being in imagination and creativity and the unknown, which can often feel ambiguous, to Aries, which is this cardinal fire sign. Cardinal being about initiating and beginning, and then fire being about enthusiasm and passion and spontaneity. So there's this quickening of our thought process. There's in a possibility for inspired thoughts, inspired conversations, shifts in your perception of things, I think is quite possible, especially around issues that have felt like they're just coming into being in your mind. Like, I think, especially things that maybe have felt a little ambiguous or a little unknown, or where you're like, you're like collecting information and sort of sitting with something before it fully congeals or has a cohesive kind of effect. There's sort of this coming together. And again, I think there's this kind of, with some signs in particular, that change feels like much more of a contrast. And I think this is definitely so with the contrast of Pisces to Aries. Um, Pisces is very ethereal and feeling based and experience based, whereas Aries is very action based, and there's more of this like rapid, instinctual doing and then figuring things out later. Um, Now, all of that being said, this Mercury moving into Aries immediately means that Mercury is conjunct Neptune. Conjunct meaning that the planets are at the same place in the zodiac. And so um, we can think even um, like in alchemical terms, when there is this union of two different substances, two different things, they merge and then they become something different. They become a third thing, and so they have an impact on one another to where they transform one another, and then they are they are uh, never again to be exactly the same as when they were separated. So they create this third phenomenon. And so in this case, with Mercury and Neptune, there is this melding together of thought process, communication, how we make meaning of things, and then Neptune, which has this blurring, sensitizing, um, and experiential phenomenon. Neptune really is a symbol of the different states of consciousness that we can have. It's a reminder that our subjective experience is so malleable, and it is a reminder that many of the experiences that we have are based on a subjective experience, and that there can be this there can be this constant, fluid, changeable way that we experience the world, and that can shift in a moment, and that that has a massive impact on our perception, on how we view things. And so I think when Mercury and Neptune come together this particular week, uh, and also too, I want to say that Mercury, Venus, and Neptune have all been sort of like hovering together. So this is not a brand new energy. And so there's sort of this like returning back into this connection with Neptune here, this connecting back into rediscovering um, how you perceive things, and maybe I don't quite know, but maybe there's a shift around how you perceive things, especially around um, the stories that you tell yourself. And when I say that, I'm kind of like pausing there because I don't quite like the language of that, because I think that Neptune also reminds us that there's so much that's happening in the background of our consciousness. Both Neptune and Pluto, to me, feel very connected to our experience. Or let me say that again. Both Pluto and Neptune feel very connected to the symbolism of the unconscious, of unconscious experiences, unconscious material, unconscious patterns. And the nature of the unconscious is that we don't know about it. So it's like the stuff that we don't even know that we don't know. And when things become conscious, when things emerge into consciousness, we kind of just barely get a hint of it. Like it's sort of like um, it's sort of like pulling a thread, so to speak. And so with Mercury, especially being connected to this um, this intermediary, this transitional phenomenon, bringing something from one thing to another, and Mercury being very connected to the mind. There's something here that's sort of like maybe you're becoming more aware of something that has been outside of your awareness, maybe for a very long time, especially since Neptune is just freshly in the sign of Aries. So, this is your logical mind, Mercury, encountering your unconscious, Neptune, from a different vantage point in the sign of Aries. And so there's definitely like this sense of like Neptune, of course, is still very ambiguous. It's blurred. It's like, wait, what exactly is happening here? So there's a holding things softly, and um, I would definitely recommend this week paying attention to how there maybe is a transition or a shifting in your dreams, your dreams that you have while you're sleeping, or your daydreams, or your imagination, or just kind of like the things that are knocking around in your mind, like the I feel like Mercury Neptune is very connected to these thoughts that we have that we kind of don't even really realize that we're having. And maybe you've had this experience where um, you're like thinking something. Maybe you like wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my gosh, like I have to deal with this thing today and it's going to be so difficult. And, you're like playing out the storyline of how an interaction is going to go. You're like mentally preparing for things to go in a certain way. And then you catch yourself and you're like, wait, like, why am I planning out that? Why am I telling myself it's going to be a terrible day? Like, I don't know that. And that storyline, like how often does that happen? And I think, this is very normal. It's the nature of our mind, of our psyche, to have these uh these unconscious thoughts that just sort of replay. And when we become more aware of them, there's usually this sense of sort of like reclaiming or understanding yourself. Anyways, I'm like totally going on for a long time about this. My point is that there's possibly this week becoming more aware of the things that have been sort of like lurking in the background of your consciousness, especially around how you perceive the world. Um, and in addition to this, Mercury is also making a subtle, helpful aspect, a sextile aspect to Pluto, which allows for this integration in a way where there is this helpful healing process. Now, also what's happening this week is we're moving into Taurus season. So this means the sun is moving from Aries into Taurus, and this is a shift too. So the sun is a symbol of our ego, the ego being this, just like the sun is the center of our solar system, the ego is this center point within the psyche. It's this point where everything sort of orients around. And so it has this, the ego has this anchoring quality to it. It sort of like gives us something to hang on to. Um, and the ego, the sun, there is this quality like of like, yes, this is who I am, this is what I am, this is what I'm aware of. The ego is a term that the psychoanalyst Freud came up with, and in his language, the word that he used for ego, I don't remember what the word is in German or whatever, but the word like translated to the me. And so I like thinking of the ego as the me, like that part of us that says, this is me, like I am this, whether we identify that in a way that is connected to our physical body, our work, our roles, our relationships, whatever it is, it's like this very tangible sense of awareness. And so the sun is this sense of self, this sense of identity, this sense of consciousness, the things that we identify with. And the sun is also very connected to our vitality, our energy, and in a more energetic or spiritual sense, the sun is a symbol of that thing that animates us, that thing that is unique to us, that is that animating force that comes from within and then is expressed out through all of those roles and identities and the more mundane things that we take on that are hopefully an expression of the inner experience. And we can think also as the transiting sun moving through the signs every month as this conscious focus on different areas, and that we are experiencing ourself, the me, the inner experience, that we're experiencing ourself through different lenses from month to month based on the sign that the sun is in and the other planets that the sun is aspecting. So in this case, we're moving from Aries to Taurus. Aries being that sign that is about initiative and moving forward and like this enthusiasm and passion, to Taurus, which is a fixed sign and an earth sign. So, earth, we, of course, most of us connect with like rooting in and stability and developing things. There's this very material world connection to the earth in a way that is very practical, but also nourishing, and also there's this honoring of the physical experience. Uh, and then the fixed quality, fixed is the mode. So there's three modes to the signs. There is cardinal, which is beginning, there is fixed, which is developing, and then there's mutable, which is transition. So we can think of it as like in the model of the triple goddess being the maiden, the mother, and then the crone. This sort of like the growth process where there is a beginning, a middle, and then a transition. And so Taurus is the middle. The fixed quality is about developing things and elaborating on things and like rooting into something, giving nourishment to something. And so um, there's this conscious focus this particular month of Taurus season from mid-April to mid-May that is around developing. And in this case, this is very connected in to Pluto and to Mars. And so this week we have this T square, which is where there are two planets that are opposite one another, and then there's another planet that is squaring both of them. And so in the chart, we could draw a line that is like, let's say, a horizontal line and then a line from the middle of that downward, and it creates this T shape. Uh, so this is a very dynamic, energizing, enlivening energy that could possibly have also some tension and some agitation to it. So it's very activating, it's very alive. Because it involves the sun, which is a symbol of the vitality, the sense of self, the ego. And whenever we have more tense aspects to the sun, such as an opposition or a square, even a conjunction, whenever we have more tense aspects to the sun, it typically is some sort of challenge or call to integrate our sense of self, our ego. There's typically something that wants to be modified around how we identify or how we see ourselves in some way, which is the sun. Now, in this case, this is involving Mars, which this week Mars is moving into Leo. So I am jumping ahead of myself a little bit. I'm going to talk about Mars in Leo, I guess maybe right now. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. so, um, so Mars is moving into Leo Thursday, the 17th. And gosh, okay, I do want to say, I think that like this whole first part of the year, there has been this very strong retrograde theme. Of course, we've had Mercury retrograde, we've had Venus retrograde, and then we're still emerging from Mars retrograde process because Mars's retrograde was in Leo and Cancer. And so Mars is finally this week moving from Cancer into the sign of Leo. It's been moving very slow. Mars has been direct for a long period of time, but it's been in this sign of Cancer for like a good long while. So there's this transition for Mars, which is a symbol of um, our boundaries, our initiative, our advocacy, our desire to fight for something, to push back. Mars has this guardian and protector quality to it, whether that is being a guardian or a protector or standing up for yourself or for others or for something that is important to you. Mars is like, um, Mars, I also really love thinking about Mars as psychological defense systems or the immune system. It's the thing that is the psychological function of how we deal with anxiety and fear and with things that feel like they are harmful to us in some way. And so um, sometimes this is a very easeful process, it's very clear, and sometimes it can be very difficult to enact that function. And so when Mars moves into Leo, there's this quality around um, self-expression and like doing so in a way that maybe is more extroverted or apparent or possibly loud or just like demonstrative in some way. Leo is so much about giving and receiving love and affection. And I think with Mars and Cancer, it has been this more internal process of how you process and experience anger and assertiveness. And when Mars moves into Leo this week, there's this possibly this ability to take the things that you've been really sitting with and processing and to be more um, demonstrative or proactive or maybe even more confident about it. And I think, of course, it really depends on what's happening for you and what your process has been. But there is this more, I think Mars into Leo is this uh, initiative around uh, prioritizing the need for love and affection and caring and feeling like you can be yourself and that others are going to respond to you, that there is this sense of caring and desire for you of who you are. Um, Now, okay, so I'm going to return to the T square situation, which involves the Sun and Mars and Pluto. And so this combination, um, Pluto brings in this element of deep meaning and really going into the root of things. And this can be in a way where it's about maybe possibly exploring something, around investigating something, around moving into a deeper meaning for you, moving into experiences that that feel like it's not just scratching the surface. Pluto is about following something through to the end point, whether that is um, following something through uh, where it's like finding out the information or digging deeper into your experience of something. And Pluto is very connected to depth psychology for this reason. It's about going into the under layers, into the depths, into the underworld journey. And so this Sun, Mars, Pluto connection this particular week may possibly look like being more expressive or explicit about the things that are important to you. It may look like it may become readily apparent to you the ways in which you have not said something that you want to say or not pursued something that's very important to you. And so it could feel this week like there's something that maybe you want or need to get off your chest that wants to be said or named or expressed. Um, there could be a desire to fight for what's really important for you. And I think that there's also a possibility this week for um, you to become more aware of maybe patterns that have been happening, especially around these themes of power, control, um, I'm also thinking too, like Pluto is very connected to our experience of power and control and how we feel like either responsible for others or we feel like others are taking responsibility for us. And sometimes this can be very subtle. It can be um, expecting someone else to take care of you in a certain way or to meet your needs in a certain way or to understand you in a certain way. And then when they don't, that feels incredibly wounding. And so then there's this, and then there's maybe a way that you respond because you feel hurt in that way. Um, Maybe there is um, a situation where people in your life or a person in your life does things in a way that doesn't feel good to you, but you allow it because it would be more difficult to figure out how to address that issue. And so there's something here where the involve like, and this could be literal physical things. It could also be emotional things as well. It could be more energetic. Um, there's something here where the dynamics of how you participate in um, your relationships or maybe work dynamics or anything else where it's like there's um, where the imbalance of power, if that is present, becomes very apparent to you. And there may be a strong emotional response to that. And I'm saying that especially because Pluto is very connected to how we feel that we have power or autonomy or control, or maybe sometimes how we try to control others in order to feel okay. Um, and when I say control others, that's like, that can also look like you're trying to like do something to like not upset someone because you don't want them to get upset, because if they get upset then you feel upset, and so you're like, okay, I'm going to modify myself so that they're okay and then I'll be okay. But that is like this in a roundabout way, it is trying to manipulate the situation by controlling your behavior or your thoughts, etc., etc. And ideally, when it comes to Pluto, we want to, especially with this aspect here, this Sun, Mars, and Pluto, and Mars being in Leo, this is like, okay, how can you um, show up and exist in a way that is true, that is authentic, and allow other people to do that as well? And then you get to respond to that. But if there's a way in which you're trying to modify yourself or to fit or to do something to get a certain response from someone else, that may break down a little bit this week. And of course, um, Of course, there are a variety of situations where it is the safest thing for you to do to modify yourself in order to be safe in a situation. And so we always want to make sure that you are safe and that you're taking care of yourself. And when I'm speaking about this, my intention is really to maybe point to the things that may come up this week where you do have the choice and the ability to respond in a way that feels like you're taking responsibility for your own expression, and that that sense of power is not being unnecessarily assigned out to other people. Okay, so Pluto's also very connected to occultism, mystery traditions, healing, um, and I think there's also this thing too this week around boundaries, um, saying no, being assertive, and like how to do that. And so those kinds of scenarios may come up. There might be scenarios this week whenever we have Sun and Pluto or Mars and Pluto, there can be a strong emotional response, a strong activation around something. And so I share that with you. I don't know, that may or may not happen for you, but I share that with you that um, if that does come up, there's something here that is, we would call this like a shadow phenomenon, a shadow part, or maybe a psychological complex where if you get really activated, and we know that we get activated when we go into the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode, where it's like, um, often maybe you've experienced this where something you're in a situation and you respond in a certain way, and then afterwards you're like, oh, like why did I do that? I wish I hadn't responded that way. I wish I responded in this other way, but things were just like happening so fast. And there's definitely the potential for that this week. And so I think that the more that we can do to um, notice when we're activated, and to give ourselves space to sort of like let that cycle run through like a wave. And if it's possible to give yourself some space and time to regulate or to process. Of course, that's not always possible, but I think like the more space and time that you can have this week to um, allow activations to rise and then to settle, that's going to be very helpful to you. Um, let's see, what else do I want to say about this? I think also Sun, Mars, Pluto is so much about being ruthlessly authentic. And that doesn't mean that you necessarily like say everything that's on your mind all the time, but it's like being ruthlessly authentic with yourself and with what you really want and desire, what's really important to you, even if that is incredibly inconvenient or if you don't want it to be true. Like Pluto's really about encountering the truth of a situation. And um, oftentimes being honest with ourselves about how we do actually feel, even if we don't want to feel that way, even if, the way that we feel is like jealous or mad or judgmental, there's something healing that happens when we acknowledge what actually is. And then we can pursue that, like, oh, like why is it that I'm feeling this way, or what do I want to do about that, etc., etc. But like the feeling itself is not bad, and if a feeling feels bad or shameful to you, um it's there's usually something to explore there that might be healing or integrative for you, whether you explore that in your own contemplation process by sitting with it or journaling about it, or you talk to um, a friend or a counselor or a therapist that feels like a safe, non-judgmental space for you. It's helpful to explore these things this week. Also happening this week, we have the last quarter moon in the sign of Aquarius. And so um, this is also really highlighting this T square of the Sun, Mars, and Pluto together because the moon will be in Aquarius with Pluto. And the moon is connected to our emotional sense for the week to week and day to day. And so the moon coming in here is also saying that there's something therapeutic to be gained. There's something emotionally to be processed. There's something here to go into around your experience and what feels true for you. And that what feels true for you may be inherently uncomfortable. It may involve setting a boundary. It may involve saying no to the things that are a no for you. Um, Yeah, there's something I think very honest to be gained this week. Again, like even if it's not vocalized, even if it's for you, which is really, that's what it's about. Okay, so the last piece that I'll share in the astrology of this week is we have the asteroid Juno retrograde moving back into Scorpio. And so I'm slowly integrating the asteroid aspects into these weekly astrologies as they come up. And so Juno in the mythology was the Roman mythology was the queen of heaven. Um, she was a symbol of like influence and impact. And she was also this protector, particularly of women and women's issues. That often meant that she was symbolized was a symbol of marriage or unions. And now we could think of Juno as a symbol of committed relationships in this way, particularly committed romantic relationships, um, or committed relationships where there is like some sort of household situation involved, even if it's, not sexual. It could be relationships where there is a committed factor, where there is a household or children involved in some way. Um, the astrologer Demetra George has noted that Juno is often very present, especially whenever there are events around women's rights or gender issues in some way, where there is an advocacy for gender issues in general. And so um, I think that in our current times, we could think of Juno as a symbol um, of gender issues, particularly when it comes to relationships. And Juno is also very connected to a protective process around childbirth as well. So, this like process of birthing a new being into being. Um, this is all Juno symbols as well. Let's see, what else do I want to say about this? Uh, so the asteroid Juno has also been linked to jealousy and like revenge as well, and that's connected to some of the mythology around Juno and her relationship to her husband. And I think that um, when we look at Juno now from a more psychological perspective, we could see Juno as a symbol of how we bond, how we commit, especially commitments where there are shared resources and where there is procreation of some kind. Um, and how we respond to um, ruptures in a relationship, or how we respond to when there's a sense of discord in relationship in some way, and how um, like maybe possibly there is a desire to retaliate or punish, or like to do something, um, because really, like, the especially in the mythology, Juno's behavior is really about like trying to gain back a sense of power in the relationship. And so I think that Juno symbolizes so much about how like I'm thinking also the astrologer that initially presented the idea of bringing asteroids back into astrology. Her name was Eleanor Bach. And she talked about Juno representing the conundrum of committed relationships, like how to be in a union and then have your sense of independence but stay close to the person, and how to deal when there are challenges in the relationship. And so, so that's my little like mini analysis of Juno for the moment. So, what does that mean now? What does that mean this week? You might be saying to me. So, um, Juno and Scorpio, I think, is really interesting actually, because Scorpio is very reminiscent of Pluto and some of these themes that we've been talking about. Scorpio is so much about intimate bonding, deep bonding, the ways that we depend on each other, and vulnerability, emotional vulnerability. Um, and so, for context, uh, Juno moved into Scorpio in November of 2024. And then earlier this year, it just barely moved into Sagittarius. And then it's going to move back into Scorpio this week. And it's going to be in Scorpio until July of this year. So that's a very long time. Typically, the asteroids are in a sign for just about 3 or 4 months at a time. So this is like a good long chunk of time that Juno is here. So I think this is possibly this longer term period of exploring the depth of our bonds in relationship, and um, how we respond when there is a rupture, especially like a rupture or discord, or there's like a challenge in relationship in some way. And I think that, um, okay, so this is like side note here for a second. Um, so Eleanor Bach, the astrologer who initially introduced the idea of incorporating the asteroids into astrology, especially the four goddess asteroids, which are Juno, Ceres, Vesta, and Pallas Athena. She presented this as the asteroids being a symbol of fleshing out the more nuanced experiences um, of feminine gender roles in society. And I think there's so much to like discuss here and unpack, like just in that one statement in general. But a part of what she said was that the only feminine quality or feminine presenting planets in our current Western astrology at that time, this is in the 1970s that she was talking about this, uh, were the moon and Venus. All the other planets were named after masculine mythological figures, and they were discussed and identified in a way that identified them as masculine figures. Um, this was the Sun, Mars, I think even Mercury to a certain extent, and Saturn and Jupiter. Um, and so she argued that the moon and Venus were not enough. That there was like, as our culture and our society continues um, to change and transform, that there are other qualities that need to be expressed through the astrology. And so that these asteroids allow for a more nuanced experience and exploration and a way to mirror our experience through the astrology. And so I'm saying this because traditionally we would think that Venus is connected to relationships and our bonding and how we commit and relate to one another. I would argue even that the moon is connected to our attachment style and how we bond with other people in a way where there is this long-term commitment, and that our early experiences of bonding through our caregivers informs how we bond in our adult relationships. So that is still there. That is still something that we gain from looking at the moon and Venus. And Juno, in particular, is about the ongoing experience of being in relationship and how we, um, I think this is, I'm just kind of like, I'm just kind of like talking through this with you. So thank you for listening. Um, I think that Juno speaks to how we deal with the ongoing challenges of remaining in a committed relationship. And when I'm thinking about Juno, I'm also like really thinking about Esther Perel's work, her book. So Esther Perel is a psychotherapist, has become well known for her book Mating in Captivity, and she talks a lot about this, the challenge of committed relationship in our current cultural societal setting is how to have intimacy and desire in relationship while also being close, and like how to maintain that like sort of, I think, what is quite magical, that magical um that magical recipe of distance and closeness, and that like really um that really solidifies and secures the connection as well as the desire in relationship. Now, so this is like there's something here with Juno around all of these themes, how we deal with relationships and how we stay connected to one another. Um, and there's this scorpionic exploratory process. There's like really going deep and authentically and meaningfully into how we do this. And so I think this is like this Juno transit back into Scorpio. Juno's going to be there for a while until July. So this is a more long-term transit. We can think of Juno and the other asteroids as kind of like the timing of like Mars-ish. That's sort of like the about the pace that they move. So it's not like Saturn. It's not going to be there for that long. But there is this exploration, yeah, of like how you do committed relationships and how that works for you and how you show up. And there is this thing this week around like how you get activated, what's important to you, and how your emotional response, I think, how your emotional response says something about your needs and your desires. Okay, so um, that's the astrology. I'm going to shuffle my tarot deck. We're going to pull some cards, and I have some reflection questions for you. So I think these are questions to sit with, and to maybe even like if you have a um, close friend, counselor, therapist, whatever, to maybe dialogue, talk some of these out loud if that feels comfortable for you. Reflection question number one. So these are all connected this week. So it's like we're following the trail via these questions. So first one is, what evokes a strong emotional response from you? And we know that because, like, you feel it. You feel a strong emotional response that often is either anger or shame or guilt or like something that feels like really intense. Um, and I don't know, maybe it's a strong emotional response that is like joyful too. You're like, I'm not feeling any of those anger, guilt, shame. That's great. Whatever it is. What is it particularly, specifically, that evokes this strong emotional response in you? And we're gonna like investigate that. What are the physical sensations that you feel? What are the thoughts that you have? Are there images that sort of like describe the feeling that you have? For example, does it feel like an ache in your chest? Does it feel like you're going to be swallowed up by a wave? Does it feel like you're like going to disappear into a cave? Like anything like that. Um, Maybe it's more thought based. Maybe there are storylines that arise from this strong emotional response. And lots of space for this, lots of like allowing yourself to experience and to notice what is happening here. What are the physical sensations, the thoughts, and the feelings connected to this emotional response? And then number three, uh, does this experience that you're having, does it remind you of anything from your past experiences? And so, what we're doing here with this is we're trying to link the past experiences to the present experiences to understand what is happening, like what this strong emotional response is actually about. This is like trying to get into that unconscious, like maybe what is being carried forward through you. And this can be things that you're carrying forward um, that you can consciously remember. It might be things that are being carried forward that are even like pre-verbal, that maybe there's just more of a feeling versus a memory connected to it. It could be things that you're carrying forward through your family line, even like things that you're not even aware of. It's not necessarily um, important to identify the memory that it reminds you of, but if there's something like familiar, like just sort of connecting into what is familiar there. And from there, so all of this whole process ideally creates more space around the experience of whatever this strong emotional reaction is, and creates a sense of like feeling more connected to yourself and a more fully fleshed out experience of what is happening. And this is something that is not like a one and done situation that you can go through again and again. And then you can decide how you want to respond to what's happening inside of you, outside of you. Okay. So, I feel like that was a lot. Um, and I encourage you to, as always, um, accept whatever resonates with you, and anything that doesn't, you can just let it wash away, wash over you. As I'm shuffling the tarot cards, this is an opportunity for you to get into a comfy space, to, if you haven't already, um, to maybe um, close your eyes or to focus on something that feels soothing for you. Imagine yourself contained within this beautiful, sparkling sphere of light. This light can be any color that feels protective for you in this moment. This is a beautiful time to call in the presence of your spiritual guidance team, ancestors, um, anyone or anything that you feel a kinship with or a relationship with that is a benevolent, protective, guiding force for you. Ask that they are here with you now to protect you, to help you, and to communicate with you in a way that you can easily understand right now. I am pulling 3 cards. You may wish to pick a number between 1 and 3. Have that card be special for you. So I'm pulling again today from this deck is called the Tarot of Spells and Potions. All right, so first card is the 5 of Pentacles. I feel like I pulled this one recently. So, 5 of Pentacles is so much about resilience. And often the more like practical interpretation that I see is it's about it often comes up when someone feels like they're under resourced in a way, like where they don't have the things that they need or they're going through a hardship. Um, I've actually often gotten this card in connection to experiences that feel like there's an underworld journey or like this dark night of the soul kind of feeling. This feeling of like really feeling like you are going through a hard time, you're going through it, and it's like you're like, I just need to get on the other side of this challenging situation. I don't think that always has to be the case with this card. I don't know, maybe this is something that you're experiencing now. Um, Regardless, this card is a reminder of your inner resilience and your ability to move through challenging situations. It's also a reminder that there is support that you have, like even if it's you can't see it, even if it's not available to you, um, like that. I think it's also kind of like there's something that maybe you're not seeing or not drawing upon for some reason, something that can help you. Um, and sometimes that's like a very practical resource. Sometimes it's more of an inner resource. I think this card is also kind of about like flipping the perception of things. And when I get this card, I often think about um, some of the challenges that I've been through, and like these experiences where um, I went through a challenging situation and my sense of hope and purpose through that experience really helped me. Like it really helped me stay strong and move through it. And I'm also with this card, like thinking about that the work of the uh, existential therapist Viktor Frankl. He wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, and really great book. If you haven't read it yet, definitely pick it up or see if you can find it on an audiobook. And he talks about experiences of Holocaust survivors, and that the connecting to a sense of meaning, um, like even if that's just like this like little shred, this sense of like being able to hold on, really I think like being able to hold on to your sense of presence in the moment to continue existing, um, that was something that really helped people in that most horrific experience. Um, and so um, he really talks about, I think, like the resilience of the human spirit through situations that are harrowing and horrifying. And so the this, and like I realize that might be a little um, heavy, and that's not my intention to necessarily be that way. But I think that this card, that it comes up for you at this particular moment, there's something here around dealing with adversity and dealing with um, that your inner resilience and hope, and drawing on the resources that you have, the inner resources that you have, those are a massive benefit to you. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that card, and maybe we'll go back to that in a moment. Um, okay. And you'll have to let me know how that sits with you, especially if that's your card. Okay, second card is the Two of Cups. And the Two of Cups is such a sweet card. Um, in this deck, it has this image of these two people, like it looks like they're doing each other's makeup. Um, this card is about unions, coming together, relationships. It often is symbolized by the beginning of something, the beginning of a union, whether that is a relationship in more practical terms, or a coming together, like I'm thinking of this like the Mercury moving into Aries, this like cohesion of things in your mind. And so or cohesion of things like in your feeling sense, like feeling more of a sense of integration. And so I think it's very interesting that we have the Five of Pentacles first. And I didn't say the Five of Pentacles, the image in this card is this person playing tic-tac-toe with a parrot, and they're kind of like tickling the parrot's belly. Um, and so it's interesting. The Five of Pentacles is this like often more um, challenging card that can symbolize vulnerability and resilience and how we move through a challenging situation. And then we go to the Two of Cups, which is about things coming together. There's a sense of flow and ease and like equanimity in the Two of Cups. There is like, I'm wondering, I don't know, but I'm wondering if it's like moving through a challenging situation and there is support here. There is connection here. There is connection here in this place. And then the third card is the Hanged Person. And so the first two cards I pulled upright. The Hanged Person I actually pulled reversed. And so, of course, the Hanged Person is this person that's hanging upside down. In this card, um, it's this person hanging upside down from a broomstick. And there's an octopus in the card, and the octopus is kind of like topsy turvy. Um, and this person also like honoring the original Smith Waite imagery. The person has this sort of like yellow halo around their head. This, like, in the traditional deck, it's like this symbol of awareness, or this symbol of like having an enlightening experience. So the hanged person in tarot typically is about inaction and about suspending doing anything and allowing things to sit with you, allowing yourself to become um, more aware. And there's like this contemplative element to it. There is this like gaining wisdom element to it. Looking at things from a different perspective is also a symbol here. But I did pull this reversed. So, like, what's up with that? So, I'm going to take a drink of water here. So, reversal of this card could mean a couple different things. It could mean the exact opposite. It could mean that action is called for here. It could mean that continuing to contemplate may just continue to perpetuate the sense of confusion. Like, um, it could be that maybe, possibly, you're so much in your head that it's just like this analysis paralysis, and it's like too much of that, and that the path forward is doing something, and that clarity may come through action. Um, it could be, in contrast, a hesitance to pause. It could be, I don't know if you have this, or maybe you know someone like this, where um, instead of like pausing, they never pause. They're like constantly doing things, and they're constantly like they can't stop. They're always like busy, and then there's like this sense of chaos, and then it's like there's just this constant stream of activity and anxiety, and that is a way to cope with indecision or anxiety, is to like just constantly be in motion. Because when you stop, then you don't have to, but when you stop, then maybe there's a confrontation of the anxiety or of the challenge. But if you're constantly in motion, that's one way to sort of avoid looking at something. That could be what's going on here. And then also, gosh, what else was I also kind of feeling with this? Hmm. When I'm looking at all of the cards together, it may be that there's something uncertain here. It might be something like you're not quite sure what the inaction is going to be, because this is the third card. It's the final card. It's the farthest out in the time stream. So there's something here around. Okay, so your resilience is being highlighted here, like how you do or do not have a sense of your like inner strength and resilience, and your resources, like inner resources, outer resources. That's really a theme here. And then there is this thing around connecting with other people, around sharing, communing, connecting. Relationships are a big component of this. And I'm also like contrasting the Two of Cups with like the Six of Pentacles, where the Six of Pentacles, I think we talked about recently, is about giving and receiving. The Two of Cups is much more intimate. It's much more about sharing feelings and being vulnerable. Like, I'm just also like thinking about this card where they're doing each other's makeup. And that's like a very intimate activity. It's very vulnerable in many ways, and um, it can be vulnerable, but it can also be very bonding and empowering also. And so there's like something like these two cards to me, the Five of Pentacles and Two of Cups feel very like intimate and vulnerable, and like there's something like very emotionally deep and rich that's like being evoked in this situation. And then with the Hanged Man, there's something here around inaction or contemplation. It's kind of like maybe possibly we're not really sure what may come up through these scenarios. I don't know. You'll have to tell me how this sits with you. And I think the beauty of the tarot is that um, there's um, such a multiplicity of meaning. And so you get to pull what comes up for you here as I'm talking about all of these things. So, this is your weekly astrology forecast for this week. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I so appreciate you being here. And yeah, really curious to hear how this lands for you and what's happening for you this particular week. I'm wishing you a most easeful and enjoyable and effortless week as much as possible. And I'll see you next week. Bye.